Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of VWO webinars. The VWO webinars, Masters of Conversion, is a series of fireside chats and nice conversations with people who really are really into conversion rate optimization, testing, and mastering conversion at their very company. Now, today we have a very special guest from the Netherlands. We welcome Alex Joseph. He's a growth marketeer at Recruitee. Welcome, Alex. Thank you for being with us.
Hello. Just a second so I can share my screen.
Alex, before we jump right into the subject and talk about conversion rate optimization and all the stuff you're doing, can you tell us a bit about Recruitee? What kind of company is Recruitee? What are you doing? And what are you offering to your customers?
Well, Recruity is a SaaS company, a software as a service company. We create software for recruiters. It's an applicant tracking system. Basically, this platform can be used by any in-house recruiter or even agencies now to manage the recruitment process completely from the point of sourcing applicants and employer branding, all the way to managing them in the recruitment pipeline, all the way to reporting on this process with some AI features to help you out sorting CVs. So essentially, it takes away all of the complications that you would usually have in this job, like having spreadsheets or loads of emails or very busy calendars. It just helps you make this process far cleaner.
I think after our call, I would directly talk to our human resources department, because we are actually recruiting for our team in Spain and Germany. And I can tell you is that exactly like you are explaining, there's a lot of Excel sheets, there's a lot of back and forth of emails, and did you look at this and so on. So absolutely a lot of value that we can see in the solution. Alex, you are your official job title is growth marketeer. That's a very broad term, but I think you have a special passion for conversion rate optimization. Tell us a bit about how you got into conversion rate optimization. We've learned, I mean, you're working with VWO, we've seen you working with it. We know that you are one of the three who's really driving the conversion rate optimization program. How did you get into this field?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I think it came naturally to me. So in university, and this is also because it was my passion, not necessarily just because I wanted to know more about psychology, but deeply felt like I needed to know more. I did psychology and also business, and these were already kind of guiding me in the direction of marketing in general. Got into growth marketing, and then doing this, I realized that one of the best marriages of my passions, say psychology, tweaking things. I was always a bit geeky with computers and with techie things in general, and that also lends itself to making me a better growth marketer. I realized that CRO is just has an amazing tool set behind it, and A/B testing in particular is a great tool to find out more about the people who buy your product, who research your site, and to extract truth from reality bit by bit, and in a more objective and clear way, say. So I think it's really my background and my interests that automatically got me into conversion optimization. And also at Recruity, it was need, really. I did not know beforehand that I would be doing an A/B testing program or that I would be setting up this CRO program. But I did it because, well, we had the traffic, we even had the tool, VWO, but we were not doing much in this sense. And I just found it to be the most efficient way to get results that can then be shared with the wider company and can be trusted as well. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell. Now we're running as much as 5 tests at the same time, so that's a good development in say 7 months, 8 months.
Absolutely. It was really amazing to see how the program grew into what it's today, and it keeps growing. I think when we look around to several optimization programs, the ones that show best results and the ones that are really driving companies' results are the ones where more people are involved and are buying into this initiative in a certain way. When you launched the A/B testing program, what do you think? Who ideally should be involved in an A/B testing program from the company? Who should be the stakeholders that you should actively or passively be involved in this particular program?
Well, I can definitely not speak for all companies. I think, and this is an important insight for A/B testing as well, all companies are different and all of them will have their internal processes that you need to lend yourself to and that you need to, yeah, respond to. But I think it is important to have buy-in from upper management, or at least if you're in the marketing team, from the upper management of the marketing team. Uh, so this is only buy-in. They don't necessarily need to be the ones who examine all of the tests. In our case in particular, it is me who is mainly responsible with carrying out, coming up with experiments, analyzing and everything like that. But I also find that it is important to include other colleagues who aren't necessarily optimization specialists, but also like in growth marketers or SEOs or so on. And it is important for people to review what you do, to have some quality control over what you do. And I'm only speaking from the perspective of someone who has only set up a program recently. For a young program, this is fine. You have one person who does most of the testing and the ideation, and then others who weigh in and check for quality. But as the program grows, I believe it is important, especially to have lock-in from multiple people, even in a higher management, because you will probably need to hire more people to do these tests and to keep everything running. Yeah, I believe it is important that everyone is on board with actually applying what is found out in these tests and understanding the data. So really, I think it's something that everyone in your organization who is related to the experience you're trying to improve should understand. And then you should have an inner circle of people who help you detect or rate the best tests. We actually have a growth sprint every 2 weeks in Recruity, and we check the ideas, we rate them on well, there are several frameworks you can do. You can rate them on, but ours is the ICE framework. Yeah, so impact, confidence, and ease. But yeah, to get back to your question, I think everyone should be involved. I think you should have some people QAing, and I think you should have some people who are very responsible with carrying out the tests, and also probably a developer if you're gonna do very complicated tests should be involved.
But let me add on this. Another question we've discussed this during the last couple of days. The typical micro tests where you test a copy or a headline or a service description that can vary, that actually the copywriter could test. Is that happening already, or are most of the tests we're talking about at Recruity more complex ones, more structural ones that really affect the UX?
Yeah, I think we have both, and actually we've found that these very small tests like copy tests or extremely small copy tests for us, for our traffic and our level of conversion just do not really work that well. It's just too little. So for now, these are actually kind of no-goes for us. Very small tests, but the larger, more structural tests that we do, we generate. I mean, it's really both that we've tried to answer your question, but it's just like, okay, just let me get to the next slide. Okay, here you can see a subset of what we've tested, and we usually might test really small things because we have low-hanging fruit, but it's usually copy or otherwise more complicated tests would still require someone to use VWO, right? Would still require someone to understand the tool. So really copywriters at this point for us, only if it's email or other places like that they usually use, like HubSpot, they would test. But it's usually me who uses this tool and the developer, because the rest have not yet been onboarded. So no matter the type of test that we're gonna do, it's usually the people who really can use the tool and are familiar with it, because it takes a while to be able to use it properly.
Well, one particular at the beginning of most tests is an observation, and then you build a hypothesis, and ideation starts. Ideas and observations can come from many people. You mentioned it, that you have your growth scrum meetings and meet with your colleagues. Is that, I mean, are you working in a culture where people can come up and with anything that they have seen either on your own side or on a competitor side, and then throw into this ideas for your testing roadmap? Is that coming from different angles?
Yes, precisely. So we have a growth board in ClickUp, where anyone in the growth team and actually the marketing team, and actually any team, but it would generally be only the marketing team that would add the stuff in there, can place ideas in Ideate that we then discuss in these growth sprints. So anyone can come up with an A/B test idea, anyone can come up with an experiment idea, and everyone is aware of our experimentation process. Also, even content marketers, even though not with VWO, they will try to experiment on their own assets, emails, and so on. So yeah, the experimentation process at Recruity is an open one. It is one that is.
Is it competitive? Is it something like a competition? So do you celebrate if I would be part of your team and I come up with a really good idea and it turns out that it creates a really strong lift in conversion rate? Is that celebrated and people have this sportsmanship, or is that not that related to the person?
I think it's mainly not that related to the person, actually, because at Recruity, and you mentioned competition, that's important. We don't really feel like we're competing with each other in the marketing department. And actually, I think that would not be the best for a company
No.
like ours. Maybe in some or in an advanced CRO program, it might make sense to motivate competition, to But no, we don't compete. We all strive for the same goal. We all strive to get more marketing qualified leads that turn into sales qualified leads. We all strive to move the needle in the same direction. So even though
you celebrate together the results wherever they come from, the idea came from. That's probably the right approach. Yeah.
Precisely. Of course, if someone does something exceptional, comes up with an exceptional idea, it will be celebrated even more, and they will be thanked. But it's generally we celebrate success together.
Tell us a bit. Let's go a little bit deeper into what you're doing. So in your current A/B testing campaigns and your current program, can you give us a couple of examples? So what is it? Things like you have tested.
Okay, well, already you have here on the screen, of course, I will have to explain what the actual A/B tests were. So for example, in this one that we're actually testing right now, we just added a little graphic here that says 3,500 companies have clicked this and never looked back. It's looking very, very positive.
Catchy.
Actually. It's not yet done, but like 20% plus on trial clicks, which is very decent. Yeah. We usually test on 3 main pages on which we have traffic. So this being the home page, being the pricing page, and being the form, the checkout. Okay, other things we have tested. We've tested illustrations that got us, I believe, plus 10% more trial clicks on the pricing page. We are testing things on the form page like, see, before we didn't have these little icons before all of the titles. And now we do. This is actually causing an amazing increase, and it's like in confirmations. So and the end result that we want of like 10%, it's still not significant, but it's very close to being so. So this is actually impressive. First time we managed to get the proper uplift on the form. And also things like sticky headers. This here, of course, it's not in real time, but we tested the sticky header as well. We also tested things like contrasts. So before, this background was lighter blue, and this was also blue, the button, and we got to the conclusion through a test that this configuration would be better. We're testing copy changes, which you will see a bit later as well. But usually like copy changes for the full homepage, because we found that just 1 or 2 pieces of the copy will never have much impact. So yeah, really, we are testing everything from design elements to information structure to additions, to highlights, to little tricks, so to speak, like the 3,500 companies one. Yeah, quite diverse.
I will definitely copy this one. I think we will definitely test it on VWO's homepage. Thank you for that one. Really appreciate that.
Would be nice.
So we can use your test results on our homepage, and
sure.
If it works, I will let you know. Yeah, these are two really great examples. When one question that came up the other day was, since A/B testing has become such a central part of your growth strategy and your marketing efforts, did this actually lead to a change in your goals and in your priorities altogether? So I mean, when you saw the results and you saw things that you can influence using these little changes, did it actually affect your goals and your priorities for what you do in growth marketing?
Fundamentally, I don't think so. I think this came as an extra tool set to reach the goals we already had. And it came as an extremely useful one that was not yet explored in our context. To be fair, the traffic ramped up a lot in the past 2 years. I mean, you have to see this company is only nearly 6 years old now. And yeah, it has grown in 2 years, 2 years something since I joined, from like 70 employees to 140 today. And also the presence has grown a lot. So we realized, well, this is the perfect thing to use to get even more MQLs, to get even more out of the traffic that comes to our website, and to get even more out of the experience we're offering people. I don't think our bottom line has changed, but something has changed once we started doing these. We've become even more data centered. We have often put to test things that, say, other parts of the marketing department came up with. Like, I will show you in a later test, but we are kind of creating a rebranding around this collaborative hiring concept, because we found that our platform is best used for people in teams to collaborate when they hire. So hiring managers with recruiters and hiring managers with other employees, and just making the whole process transparent to make better hires faster. But the way we placed this had to be tested several times to see how it will impact people, and we got to a better way to show this information. So now, because of A/B testing, we are more aware of the experience that the end user is getting. Some of the early tests as well were really low-hanging fruit. Just looked at the pricing page and realized that text is maybe too small, increased it a bit, had good results, did more of that. So no, the bottom line, our goals have not changed, but just our attention to detail has changed.
Yeah, I understand. I think that collaborative recruitment, that it was clearly visible that this is can have a tremendous impact, and it's such a fundamental part of your value proposition as well, right? Alex, before we move on to some more examples from you, I think we spoke already about the 8 experiences. I think we brought a slide that is, I think, the next. Yes, exactly, this one. When we start looking at a particular scenario and say, okay, what are our priorities? What can we do? How do we start? So what is the structure for our roadmap for testing and optimization? So very often we look at these 8 experiences that we see here. So the arrival experience is the first 5 seconds on the page, the search experience and searching and finding, the navigation, the information experience about my product. How can I provide sufficient information but not too much, and structure it? How can we help the user making decisions? The checkout, nobody loves to fill out forms, that's clear. The payment experience is a pretty national challenge very often, I see. And then during the entire journey, there's the support experience. From these 8 clusters or areas of the overall journey, what could you say, which are the top 3 or 4 ones that really matter in your testing program?
Yes, for sure. I think that's actually an easy one, at least for now. I think all of these at some point will be tested as the online presence and traffic grow. But in my main focus was on 4 of these, which would be arrival experience, especially on homepage. It matters a lot what people see immediately as they come onto your homepage, and like the first few seconds as they go down. So I did that for homepage and pricing page especially. Just make sure things stick out properly, make sure that the headline is the right size, make sure that the contrasts are okay, and so on. I think the information experience is one that is important, and we've only now started to understand how deeply this can affect conversion. really you can test little graphics and contrasts and cosmetic changes, and you might see some uplift. But the biggest uplift is in how the users or potential clients' minds are impacted by the information you present. So information experience is really thinking about what your copy and what your whatever it supports the copy is telling your user. And I think we will have more and more of these tests, and we just had one that was really impressive that you will also see a bit later. I think the decision experience, and this is kind of connected with the information experience, is something we're also testing. We want the information to lead to the decision we desire, and we tested things that in one way or the other make the user's emotions align with our ultimate goal. Say, click the trial or click the demo button, and checkout experience for sure. I think this one's a hard one to crack, so the form, but at the same time, it is one where you can get really valuable uplifts, even if it took us like many tests to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one we've been, as you know, in VW Insights, we have a form analyzer, and whenever we look at the results of tests that are based on this form analyzer of VW, it's surprising how changing the order of a field or dropping a field that is not absolutely essential. Very often it is just finding the right balance, not asking too many things. You can ask a lot of things post sales. I mean, and simplify and shorten the way to actually to book something or to ask for information. That's amazing, because it can create a huge lift at the ultimate step there. I think I wanted to point out one thing to all users, to all attendees here, or everybody who is here. If you have any questions to Alex, or you have any questions to stuff that you see during our little chat here, if you want to know more about these 8 experiences and so on, feel free, drop your questions in the chat function that you find in your GoToWebinar panel there. So hopefully someone feels encouraged to participate and share his questions with us. Yeah, you said the information experience is a fundamental one. I think what we have seen so far, that in 9 out of 10 websites, it's too much. So it's too much, and they're not sufficiently structured, because we're all in love with our product. We love to speak about it. And then we load all kinds of things on our product detail pages, and then we desperately try to structure it in a way to make it still digestible. So I think very often it is dropping things and condensing things, which is kind of also related to copywriting and structuring, right? We talked about A/B testing and changing things, and so we haven't talked yet about segmentation, because not all tests go to everybody, right? So some tests are targeted to a particular audience. Are you already in this status that you design, that you launch tests that only are targeted towards, I don't know, new users versus returning users, or specific other segmentations that you apply?
Yes and no. So unfortunately, our traffic does not easily allow for very narrow segmentation. As in, if, for example, we chose to only test people who come from social, or only people who come from Google search, we might find that it narrows our traffic enough that it will take quite a while for the test to reach significance, and we really do need all the traffic we can get for the main thing we're testing, because we also experience crazy seasonality in this business. So it might be that 1 month conversion rate just drops to half. It might be that 1 month traffic drops by 30% or 20%, especially now in Corona times, since people and sentiments were all over the place. So we try to actually not segment that much for now, because we would lose valuable traffic, but we do segment on country, because we do have native German and French and Dutch websites. But again, if we do tests that are only in German or only in French, we risk not having enough traffic. So that's, although it's nice to do, it doesn't really guarantee that the result is truly valid. We can see a trend, but rarely significant. Then we segment for mobile sometimes, because that, at least on the English homepage, we have enough. And what else? Oh, and yeah, we segment on the English language sometimes, just because some copy changes or some cosmetic changes might include changing things which would break the German and French sites if left without segmentation. So yes, we segment, but it's not segmentation to the extent that an advanced CRO program would have, where you can narrow down on literally anything from device to city to country to
No, that requires a lot of traffic. Yeah, I totally understand. That requires a lot of traffic. But for instance, if I'm a returning user and I have already browsed certain pages, when I do so, my user behavior leaves tracks. So you might already, when tomorrow I return, you might already know what I'm most interested in. But is that something that is on the roadmap, that you then target me and offer a more relevant experience?
Okay, so what I didn't actually mention, that we do use new user segmentation, because that keeps the test a bit cleaner, and we're sure that no returning users see a test when they come back that was not there before, and then it would impact their experience. And I do think that this is something you should definitely think about if you're testing, to not create this confusion effect. But for returning users, we have not yet run tests, simply because we always had some low-hanging fruit that did not require that. So it's really because it's a young program for now, we did not get there, but all of the segmentation options are on the roadmap when we get to testing things that are narrow enough, or we just don't have, these tests that work for everyone, more or less.
Okay. When you said young, when did you start, more or less, the program?
Properly running tests, I think last August we were already discussing, and I think properly running tests last autumn, and it was also a learning process for me. So some of the first tests I don't think were as valid as the later ones, where I learned exactly how long to leave it on.
It's less than a year. It's not even a year.
Less than a year, yeah. I would say 9 months for a proper testing, and I think that accelerated even more towards the last 5 months or so.
And how many tests are you now launching every month? Is there an expectation that you could estimate?
There is no exact expectation. I would say about 4 on average. It depends. See, we have some on the German and French side, but these take far longer just because of the lower traffic. We sometimes get results in 2 weeks on the homepage, and then we might have 2 of them for the homepage in a month. But it sometimes takes longer. We nearly always have a test running on the 3 main pages, so homepage, form page, and pricing page. I would say 3, 4, max 5, but there's no expectation. There have been tests with more, months with more, months with less. Really depends on the particular test, the wave of traffic it's getting, and yeah.
Do you think, let's say, if we look 1 year ahead, let's say in 1 year from now, do you envision that you're running every month 10, 15 tests?
No, that would be a bit, I think, that would be a bit too much, I think, but I think we might get closer to 10 as time goes by, but it's hard. It is honestly hard to predict exactly how traffic will ramp up, even when this Corona crisis ends and people are more confident to buy new software. It's hard to say. Honestly, hard to say.
When you plan your whatever the number might be, when you plan your tests, and you mentioned it that sometimes running multiple tests on the same page, that's a tricky thing. It can create bias and confusion, both in the data and also for the user. Are you, when you are, let's say, when you mentioned the homepage, you're testing something on the homepage, are you always then strictly run one single test on the homepage and only launch the next one when the first one is finished?
Not necessarily. This is where segmentation becomes really useful for us. So our homepage automatically detects cookies. If your browser language is English, it will show you the English version. If your browser language is French, the French version, and so on. And so we can actually, through these, by targeting these cookies in our segmentation, we can run 3 tests, one German, one English, one French at the same time. We do not tend to run 2 English A/B tests at the same time. I find that to be I don't think that that produces good results, because even if you split the traffic somehow, there's too little traffic, and if the tests somehow mingle in any way, that's something you should keep away from. And honestly, it's something that I think, you're always out to get results and to get more results and to understand your customer fastest. But it's risky when you muddle the data, and I think
absolutely, yeah. I understand. When you have enough traffic, then we see that we offer this function of mutually exclusive groups, which means that every user will only see on one on the same page. He will only see one experiment. You will never see more than one. So that is really helpful. But as you said, it requires sufficient traffic or a lot of time. I mean, you can always say, I'm going to launch this test and let it run for months until we will see the results. There are also these tests that we see from time to time, right?
Yeah.
I've heard, let's say when your tests run and then you have a winner or you have a loser, or you have learnings from the results of a test. What is your approach? What is after seeing the results, after seeing a winner, or after seeing that your hypothesis was not confirmed and so on? What is your protocol? What do you do? How deep do you dive in the results of a particular test?
Well, this really also depends on how long the test ran for and what amount of traffic we had in the test. Because if you check your report and you look at the smaller categories, the segments or dimensions, you will not really be able to tell much if there's not that much traffic, as we never get on the pricing page, for example. We never really close the test with more than 300 something conversions. So then looking at any of the sub dimensions generally doesn't really inform us of that much. because it's just that the individual cohorts are too small, and then the numbers might be random. What we do, however, or what I do, is I check things like device type, operating system, browser, country, and I try to see if there's something that stands out as particularly bad compared with the other dimensions in each of these sub dimensions I mentioned, right? So if, for example, just people on iPhone don't convert at all, but the test has 1,000 conversions, then there's something clearly going on with the iPhone, and then I can try to check either recordings, or I can simply try the test from an iPhone. However, I have to say that we try to QA our tests as much as possible. I tend to use two Apple computers with various screen sizes, and then my flatmate's Microsoft computer and phones, to just test, see how the test runs, to not let such things happen. But we don't do very in-depth analyses, exactly because most of our tests do not have this crazy amount of traffic. For losers, however, and for winners, depending on how complex the test is, we might analyze the goals. So, for example, for one of the tests, the one where we reconfigured the collaborative hiring copy on the homepage, we had a lot of goals, as in each individual button, trial button or demo button, overall trial and overall demo, demo confirmation, trial confirmation, all of the buttons in the header, including customers and pricing pages and plan pages, and engagement, and other things like login, for example, because some people, even though they're new visitors, they might only come into the site to log in, and you should check even that number to make sure that one variation isn't getting far more than the other, in terms of people who are not going to engage with your experiment. So we did check all of these, but this is only for rare tests on the homepage that have enough traffic, and I could see how behavior shifts. So when we changed to the collaborative hiring angle, for example, we could see more people going to pricing compared to plans, and so on. So really, it depends on the test, but I think you should use all the tools you have at your disposal and at least explore, even if it won't bring you the biggest value, because it's a good thing to practice.
Yeah. I might deliver and offer you an inspiration about drilling into it, because we did this during the last couple of weeks. We were looking into weekend visitors and weekday visitors, and even when we looked at several different companies, that was always mind blowing. That the results were totally the opposite. That we found this very often, that weekend users, they expect more content, they expect more information, they're browsing your site completely differently. So it's always really interesting to double check a test when and dive on, only in one of these two groups. Alex, before we run out of time, I want to talk about your 3 favorite tests. From all the stuff that you've done, are there any favorite but would say this was special?
Honestly, I have more than 3 favorite tests, but I did select some that I liked a lot, and I really enjoyed seeing the results, and I'll go through them fast. We are indeed running out of time, but yeah, let me show you. So this was the one I kept talking about, where we had the collaborative hiring angle that, well, the initial angle was talent acquisition platform, powerful software that makes hiring easy. I know, quite dry. Then we came up with this collaborative hiring software for modern recruitment, leaves traditional practices behind. Okay. And then all the way here, and also adding this proof piece here. We did 2 tests with the new collaborative hiring angle. You should know that there is also copy down the page that we changed every time, but it was too much to include here, and no one would have read that in depth. But this test showed us and showed everyone in the team really the power of A/B testing, or these tests, because everyone had the strong buy-in for making collaborative hiring work. But when we tested it on the website, this plus 1% was chance. It was like nearly like 60% chance to actually be a true one. So we tested it, and actually first time it went to -1, then second test to +1, and we were like, what is going on? So then we changed the information structure, the information experience. We made sure that people understand that collaborative hiring is our new angle, but also that we're an all-in-one tool to boost your sourcing, automate your hiring, and evaluate candidates. So make sure that people understand that even though you're a collaborative hiring platform, you still do everything an ATS does. And then we offered some proof, some hard numbers, and then we made the copy down the page specific as well. We made it so that it doesn't sound marketingy and fluffy, but just that it says things fully and honestly, and we found a very good improvement. And this, of course, everyone clapped in the meeting. It was like really good test, because it was a validation of a lot of people's hard work. As in a lot of people, product marketers, content marketers, were working on the collaborative hiring angle. But how do we put it on the site? Well, without A/B testing, we would not have found the perfect or a far better way to do this. And it took us like 6-7 weeks to get here.
Yeah, and it's a real impact in your numbers. That's really impressive. Yeah,
yes,
that is
for trial clicks, but actually it impacted positively also demos. It impacted positively engagement, visits to the pricing page, really everything. So it was great. It was such a nice validation. So yeah, as a thing to learn from this, watch the story and really think what it's telling the person who's reading it, how it's building in their mind. Make sure to not to not lose them along the way. Another one I absolutely loved. This is such a simple one, actually. This was just like pricing page without a contour, and pricing page with this yellow contour,
with this,
and with a slightly larger text. This also caused an about 16% improvement. And it was really surprising to everyone, because we were thinking like, how could such a small change work? But apparently it did, because it keeps the perception of a person on the site far more in this contour inside the pricing page and the information on it. So
yeah,
then,
I think it really adds some focus, right? It helps you to focus on what really matters on this, whereas the other is kind of a it's not so sharp. But it's a big surprise. I wouldn't have expected this, which is again, and I would like to know the number of tests like this one which were not launched because someone said, the Hippo in the room said, no, this won't work, right? So that often happens.
And funnily enough, and this is a nice thing about doing conversion optimization at Recruitee, the hippo in the room doesn't often make comments of that sort because it doesn't really. He lets the people who are professionals or specialists in those domains do their thing, and then we report on the tests at the end of the month. But it's just growth marketers and SEOs and people with like more growth experience judging these tests. So yeah, the hippo in the room doesn't really stop our tests. We do even tests that some might call stupid, and then we learn from them. And if they don't work, they don't work. We go on. But
I see.
this is also because Recruity is a company in which we try to test everything, and we try to make to draw insights from our data always, and to find this data. And then in a culture of experimentation, this is it is normal that you might not be stopped in trying even ideas that seem odd.
Yeah, I think that's really important. That really creates, I mean, if you have this culture and this openness, that gives you a lot of space to grow your experimentation program strongly. These were two very successful ones. Do you also have, let's say, some things where you would say, oh, that was really surprisingly disappointing?
Yes,
we can see red numbers here.
Yes, this was definitely surprisingly disappointing. We had the high hopes, and actually another one on the same page with multi-step trial of a form, which is known to cause crazy increases, was the same. It was surprising because we even like put in some development effort into this. Everyone who saw it was like, wow, this will definitely work. It did not work at all. We stopped it early. It was about 300 conversions in, and we stopped it before it reached significance because it was just like affecting the bottom line too hard. It was very clear that that line will never get to the right to green. And this shows you how, you have the form, you say, well, it might be ugly the way it is, it's not that nice, but then you add all of this detail and it takes away people's attention, and then they actually
exactly then they start. Probably when you look at the heat map of this one, I would not be surprised if you see a number of clicks on Rakuten and Staples and Breitling, and people start thinking about what did they do and why and so on, and why can't I see this, and then they leave disappointedly.
It is true. It's true.
So I love that example. I love it because it shows my favorite hypothesis, that keep it simple. that's very often better. You better take something away than adding things. That tends to work better nowadays. So in the moment it's not always true. Sometimes social proof really is important and can drive a decision, especially when there is I mean, if this would be a payment page and you already then social proof comes into the game, and you need to balance that to a certain degree. But yeah, well, nice. What do we learn from this? Don't overcomplicate. Never change a winning team. But again, I think it's a huge learning that we take away. I mean, it was not disappointing in the real sense of the word. It was super interesting, right?
I definitely think so. We were not happy about this failing. We were not happy about like the multi-step one failing on the form, especially because this actually means losing good business. But at the same time, it's a great learning because you know that sometimes it's counterintuitive. We might get super attached to our tests, and we might want them to work, and we might make them as colorful and complex as possible, only to realize that we were just attached to them. But that does not mean that you actually will get a good result. Yeah, tests like this teach you that the hard but also the fun way. We had a laugh about it. But it's good to have a team that is also able to appreciate the learnings in failure and not put you down for any failure. This
Yeah,
is, I think, an important part of experimentation in general, that shareholders, as you asked among the first questions, should understand. Like, experimentation is not only about winning; it's about learning.
yeah, yeah. Um, uh, Before we finish our session, I mean, this is a really good example. From this example, is there anything, let's say, not talking about a particular experiment, but in general, when you run conversion rate optimization, is there anything particular what you would say what you should not do? So what you should try to avoid when you set up your program or when you run your program?
Yes, I think you should definitely, as I just said, actually not attach your ego too much to any test. It's very easy to get super excited about what will win, what will lose. You should just take the results as they are. You should never stop tests early. It is true that any tool might call your test significant with, say, 150 conversions, and you will have the data will check out if you put it into one of these conversion calculators. But I say wait, if you have more time, to get to like 300 conversions or so, and call it then, because it will still be significant if it is. But I've often found, to my surprise, that and while I was learning, obviously, like just fresh at this, that pockets of randomness can seem non-random. So you should really be careful to run tests long enough and not just stop them because they're winners.
Yeah, very good point. Very good
Yeah.
point. I think we see that often happening, that you lose your patience and then you are too concerned and so on. We've got one more minute left, Alexa. But one is that I would like to ask you if we can, hopefully that we can repeat the session in 1 year from now. I would really be very curious to have you in our series Masters of Conversion again in a year from now, so that you can tell us a bit about what happened in between. Well, nobody knows what happens in 1 year, but it would be great
Especially not nowadays. We've been made intimately aware of that.
Yeah,
We never know what
exactly.
will happen. Yeah.
While we are, I mean, there's one last question that we always ask all our guests: is there? Could you mention 3 books or podcasts or videos that you would definitely recommend to our viewers who are into conversion rate optimization or who are looking for better conversions?
Yes, for sure. I have written them down here.
Excellent.
So I would absolutely recommend CXL as a learning platform, not only for conversion optimization, for everything growth marketing and more. And Laija, I never really knew precisely how to pronounce his name. I'm sorry if that was not the correct term, the correct pronunciation, but he's brilliant at conversion optimization, but also business, and the connections he makes between business, marketing, conversion optimization, just broad thinker who will teach you a lot. And his courses on CXL and some other courses on CXL and A/B testing are excellent and have taught me a lot of what I know, and have definitely made me a better optimizer. Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. This is not a conversion optimization book. It has really, in a sense, nothing directly to do with it. But it will make you a better conversion optimizer, because it will reveal the biases that our minds have when interpreting information. It contains a treasure trove of like all types of insights about our psychology, irrationality, and experiments to prove it, and it will definitely broaden your thinking on human psychology and how it interacts with everything from written text to situations.
Sounds
So
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, I
Sounds really interesting.
and Nick Colenda's guides on copywriting, on and optimization, they're not that long, just I don't know, like maybe half an hour read each, but they contain a lot of really cool little tricks, and of course some of his other writings. And I have to say, UX education, at least to a rudimentary level, if not in depth, I think will make you a better conversion optimizer. So understanding UX research, understanding what goes into that, and just understanding the UX designer mindset will make you better at doing conversion optimization for both marketing, but also for apps. So in time, you might want to work on the conversion optimization of your web app. That will also impact your career quite positively, I think, understanding this. And if not, the mindset would just be super useful in general. It's yet another level of understanding your customer in depth and their experience, and not only in the computer but also in real life to some degree. So yeah, these would be my recommendations.
Thank you very much. I think why my wife will be tremendously angry at you, because but will definitely pick some of this stuff to my and take them with me on my holidays, my next holidays, whenever that will happen, and instead of reading one of her books. Alex, thank you very much for your time. That was really insightful. I'm really enjoying watching the evolution of your conversion rate optimization program, and it's always great to see a happy customer and to see how you really can make out something of technology. It's also a proof of the fact that it's not the technology only. It always needs to have someone who is actually driving it and making good use of the platform. Alex, thank you very much. I don't see any question here. I have to be more provocative and offer a free pizza or free beer for the first question coming in. So you've got 10 more seconds to post a question, and the next time we see each other, then I'm gonna invite you for a beer. Let's see if that works, but I'm afraid in times of pandemic, when people are not traveling, they don't believe me that I will actually do this. So that is probably the reason why we don't see a question coming. Alex, thank you very much. Keep in touch, and we will definitely repeat this in some time from now.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you, and thanks to all of our audience. And yeah, have a nice evening.